Hey there. Welcome to this deep dive into federal contracting. Specifically, we're going to be exploring the 8A Business Development Program. It's a program that can really give a leg up to small businesses owned and controlled by folks who are, well, socially and economically disadvantaged. And they can get a foothold in a market that's worth a ton. I mean, we're talking over $1.7 trillion annually. Now, you sent over some really useful stuff to guide our little exploration here, especially that article from Proposal Helper, How to Achieve Success with Your 8A Certification. It's a really strategic guide to federal contracting growth. And speaking of growth, 8A firms won a pretty incredible amount in contracts, just in fiscal year 2024 alone, like a massive $40 billion. But before we get lost in all those details, can you just give us a quick overview of what this program is all about and why does it even exist?
Sure. So the 8A program, it's designed to level the playing field. For small businesses that are owned and controlled by, as you said, socially and economically disadvantaged people, think of it as a business development initiative, yeah? It provides a temporary boost to help these firms compete for and win government contracts.
Okay, so there are specific eligibility requirements, right,
Right.
to make sure the program really helps those who need it most. So what are some of those?
Right. To be eligible for 8A, you need to meet a few criteria. Your business has to be at least 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. citizen. And that citizen has to be socially and economically disadvantaged. Now, this could include individuals who have faced racial or ethnic prejudice, cultural bias, or economic challenges. Things like limited access to capital or historical discrimination, those sorts of things. The business also needs to show that it has good potential to be successful. And the person claiming disadvantage must be involved in the day-to-day management. And they have to have a real role in making those long-term business decisions.
So if you meet those requirements, are you in the program for life?
Not quite. The 8A certification, it lasts for 9 years. It's meant to be like temporary support, not a forever thing. The idea is to empower these businesses so they can become self-sufficient and compete in the open market after they graduate from the program, which actually brings us to a common pitfall. Businesses can get so focused on the perks of being an 8A firm that they forget about working on their ability to win contracts outside of the program.
Makes sense. The article it calls this the dual-focused growth strategy. Can you break that down a bit for our listeners?
Sure. Think of it like this. The 8A program gives you two main advantages: set-aside contracts and sole source awards. So set-aside contracts, those are government contracts that are just for 8A certified businesses. It gives you kind of a protected space to compete. Sole source awards are even more unique. Sometimes you can actually win a contract without any competition at all. But a lot of businesses, they get comfy just relying on these 8A advantages, especially those set-aside contracts. But if you really want to succeed in the long run, you got to think bigger, You got to develop those core capabilities. So by the time you graduate, you can go head-to-head with any other business out there. And it doesn't matter if they have 8A status or not.
So it's like using those 9 years as a training ground
Yeah.
while you're getting a foothold in the market.
Exactly. You got it. It's a springboard. Use those early benefits to push yourself forward. But at the same time, you got to build that solid foundation for long-term success.
Love that analogy. The article, it also really stressed relationships. In federal contracting, you mentioned prime contractors and subcontractors before. Can you explain what those are and how relationships fit in here?
Yeah, let's clear up those terms first. So in federal contracting, a prime contractor is usually a larger company, and they directly bid on and win contracts from the government. Then a subcontractor, that's a smaller company, they partner with the prime to do a specific part of the project. And building relationships is key in this whole world. Forget that image of the lone wolf entrepreneur grinding it out solo. Federal contracting is more like a team sport. You got to find the right partners and figure out those win-win situations.
Okay, so in this team sport, who are the players you absolutely need to connect with?
Well, the Proposal Helper article, it highlights 3 main relationships you need to nurture. First, those large government contractors, the primes we just talked about. You want to get on their radar as a potential subcontractor. That can open up some serious opportunities. Second, build those connections with other prime contractors, ones who actually seek out and appreciate small business partners. This can really give you an edge when you're bidding on contracts. And lastly, don't underestimate the power of connecting with other 8A firms. Collaborate, learn from each other, even team up to submit stronger bids.
So it's all about leveraging that network, right? Not just going it alone. Now, we talked about getting into the 8A game, but what about graduating after those 9 years? Seems like that transition can be a make or break moment.
You're absolutely right, and that's where strategic planning comes in. A lot of firms don't even start thinking about their exit strategy until the later stages, and by then it might be too late.
So how can businesses prepare for that transition proactively?
One good strategy is connecting with firms that are almost done with their 9 years in 8A, like, say, those that are 3 to 5 years away from graduating. Think about the possibilities. You could be the perfect successor for contracts they're about to lose.
Wow, that's thinking ahead. You're basically anticipating changes in the market, right?
Mhm.
And you're setting yourself up for success even before the opportunity is officially there. But what about businesses that are already further along in the program? Those that haven't really focused on this as much.
Well, the SBA Mentor-Protege Program, that can be a real lifeline for businesses in that situation. Basically, it pairs up experienced businesses with those that need a little guidance, helps them build the skills and strategies they need to succeed outside of the 8A set-asides. It's like a crash course in business sustainability.
So it sounds like even if you're further along in the program, there's still things you can do, right? Resources and strategies to get ready for that transition. But let's be real, graduating from the 8A program, it can be intimidating, right? Like
Yeah.
stepping out of a safety net into this, wide open market. So how can businesses make sure they're really ready for that jump?
Yeah, it can definitely be a tough transition. That's why it's crucial to start building that foundation for independence right from the beginning. Proposal Helper, they recommend aiming for 30 to 50% of your contracts to come from non-8A sources. And you want to hit that by year 5 of the program. Now, that might sound like a lot, but it makes you diversify your revenue streams. And it helps you hone those competitive skills early on. So you're not just depending on 8A, you're actively preparing to stand on your own.
A concrete target like that. It really drives home the point that success in 8A isn't just about winning those initial contracts. It's about building a sustainable business, right? One that can thrive anywhere. Now, you mentioned sole source awards before. As a unique benefit of the 8A program, what exactly are they and how can businesses use them effectively?
Sole source awards, they're kind of a hidden gem in the 8A program. Under certain conditions, you can get a contract straight from the government, no competition involved. It's a pretty powerful tool, but here's the catch. A lot of contracting officers, the people on the government side who actually award the contracts, they aren't even fully aware of how this process works.
Wait, so you're saying there's this incredible advantage, and the people who could grant it don't even know about it?
Yeah, kind of surprising, right?
It's like having a secret weapon that no one knows how to use.
It is. But this is also a huge opportunity for smart businesses. If you proactively educate those contracting officers about the regulations, specifically 13 CFR 124 and FR 19.8, you can get a serious leg up. Proposal Helper, for example, they've helped businesses secure millions in sole source awards just by knowing the process and explaining it clearly to the right people.
Fascinating. So it's not just about knowing the rules of the game. It's about teaching those rules to the referees. Now, you've mentioned Proposal Helper a few times. Tell our listeners a bit more about them. Who are they? What do they do?
Sure. Proposal Helper is a top consulting firm. They specialize in government contracting. They've got tons of experience and a really impressive track record of helping businesses in this world. I mean, they've managed over 7,000 proposals and helped clients win more than $10 billion in government contracts. But they do more than just proposal writing. They offer a whole range of services, like business development strategy, capture support, matchmaking with potential partners, and like I mentioned, that expertise in sole source awards. Really a one-stop shop for businesses that want to make it in the federal marketplace.
Sounds like they not only know how to play the game, but they also have the network and the resources to connect businesses with the right opportunities. And if I'm not wrong, they'll be at the 2025 8A Small Business Conference in New Orleans, right?
That's right. Booth #301 if you want to connect with them directly. Always happy to chat and share their insights on the 8A program and federal contracting in general.
Good to know. So for our listener who's really digging into all this, that conference sounds like a great opportunity. And meeting folks like the team at Proposal Helper could be super valuable. But before we jump into graduation strategies, I'd love to get your take on sort of the specific benefits of the 8A program. Like, what are some of the ways this program can really make a difference for the businesses that are part of it?
Okay, well, we've already gone over some of the key advantages, like set-aside contracts and those sole source awards. They're powerful tools that can give 8A firms a real edge. But beyond those, the program offers a bunch of other benefits. For example, you get access to specialized training and counseling from the SBA. That's the Small Business Administration, the agency that runs the 8A program. They have workshops, courses, and even one-on-one counseling. It's all designed to help you develop your business skills, understand those government contracting procedures, and really just build that solid foundation for success.
So it's not just about getting the contracts. It's about getting the knowledge and support to actually manage those contracts well.
Exactly. And the support is designed for the specific needs of disadvantaged businesses. The SBA, they get the unique challenges these firms face, and they offer targeted assistance to help them overcome those hurdles.
So the SBA is like a partner in your success, not just a regulatory body.
That's a great way to put it. They're invested in seeing 8A firms succeed, and they offer a bunch of resources to help make that happen.
That's encouraging. And speaking of partners, we talked about building relationships with those large prime contractors. Can you go into that a little more? Why are those relationships so crucial for 8A firms?
Well, prime contractors, they're often the ones winning those big, complex government contracts. They're always on the lookout for qualified subcontractors, to bring in specific expertise and capabilities. And that's where 8A firms can really shine. By building those relationships with prime contractors, you can position yourself as a valuable partner, and that increases your chances of getting subcontracting opportunities. Those opportunities, they don't just bring in revenue, they also give you the chance to get experience working on larger projects. And that helps you build your reputation in the government contracting world.
Like climbing a ladder, right?
Yeah,
Start with smaller subcontracts and work your way up to bigger, more complex projects.
exactly. And the 8A program, it gives you a platform to make those connections and show what you're worth to those potential prime contractors.
That makes sense. Now, you mentioned that some prime contractors, they actually seek out small business partners,
Oh.
including 8A firms.
Yeah.
What's driving that?
Well, there are a few things at play here. First, the government sets goals for the percentage of contracts that go to small businesses, and that includes 8A firms. So prime contractors have a good reason to partner with these businesses. It helps them meet those goals. Second, a lot of prime contractors, they get the value that small businesses bring. Small businesses, they're often more agile, more innovative, and more responsive than larger companies. Plus, they can bring specialized knowledge in niche areas.
So it's not just about checking boxes for the government. It's about recognizing that small businesses bring real value to the table.
You got it. Smart prime contractors, they understand that partnering with small businesses, well, it can make them more competitive and successful in the long run.
That's good to hear. Now, let's talk about that third type of relationship you mentioned, collaborating with other 8 firms. How can that help businesses?
Collaborating with other 8A firms, it can be incredibly beneficial. You can team up on bids, create a stronger proposal by combining your strengths and resources. You can share best practices, learn from each other's experiences, and offer support and guidance. It's like having a built-in network of people who really get it, people who understand the unique challenges and opportunities of being an 8A firm.
It sounds like there's a real sense of community in the 8A program, not just about competing, but also about helping each other grow and succeed.
Absolutely. The 8A program, it encourages that spirit of collaboration and mentorship.
That's really inspiring. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, developing those core capabilities so you can compete based on merit, not just your 8A status. Can you say more about that? What are some key areas businesses should focus on building up?
Sure. To really thrive in federal contracting, you need to develop a solid foundation in a few key areas. These include, well, things like proposal writing. You need to be able to create compelling proposals, proposals that really showcase your capabilities and how you're going to meet the government's requirements. Then there's contract management. Once you win a contract, you have to manage it effectively, make sure you deliver what you promised, meet deadlines, stay within budget, all of that. And of course, financial management. Good financial management is crucial for any business, but especially in government contracting. The cash flow can be unpredictable, and there are strict compliance requirements. And you can't forget about marketing and business development. You need to be able to effectively market your business to government agencies and those prime contractors, really showcase your expertise and build those all-important relationships.
So it's about being a well-rounded business, not just an 8A certified firm.
Exactly. The 8A program, it can open doors for you, but in the end, it's your business smarts and your ability to deliver that will determine your long-term success.
Great point to emphasize. It's a hand up, not a handout. It's about giving businesses the tools they need to reach their full potential. Now, as we move to the next part of our deep dive, let's focus on those graduation strategies. We've touched on some key points already, but I'd love to explore this further. What are some concrete steps businesses can take to ensure a smooth transition out of the 8A program? How do they move into the open market and keep succeeding? But before we get into that, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, from eligibility and program benefits to building relationships and, developing those core capabilities. But now let's zoom in on that big moment, graduation from the 8A program, like stepping off that moving walkway and onto solid ground. What can businesses actually do to make that transition smooth and, keep that success going in the open market?
You're spot on. That transition can feel like a big leap. But if you plan carefully and are proactive about it, it doesn't have to be a rough landing. One of the most important things is to start thinking about graduation early. Ideally, like from the moment you get into the program. Remember, you've got 9 years. Use that time wisely to build a business that isn't totally dependent on those 8A benefits.
It's that old saying, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Exactly. And in this case, today means starting that transition planning as soon as you're in the program. Don't wait till year 8 and suddenly realize you haven't built a strong enough foundation.
So what are some concrete steps for building that foundation? Things businesses should be doing throughout their time in 8A.
Well, we've touched on some already, but let's dig a little deeper. First, remember that dual-focused growth strategy. It's not just about winning those set-aside contracts. It's about developing the skills to compete out in the open market based on what you can actually do. So while you're taking advantage of those 8A benefits, actively work on building your expertise. Refine your processes. Become a more efficient and competitive organization overall, like training for a marathon while you're still in the warm-up phase.
Makes sense. So it's about using those early wins to fuel your growth, not getting complacent.
Right. Now, the second part of that foundation is diversification. Don't just focus on 8A contracts. Go after contracts outside the program, too. Remember that proposal helper recommendation. Try to have 30 to 50% of your contracts from non-8A sources by year 5. Might sound like a lot at first, but it forces you to think bigger. It helps you sharpen your competitive edge and rely less on those set-aside contracts.
Like building multiple income streams, so if one dries up, you're not in trouble.
Exactly. And speaking of diversification, think about your customer base too. Don't just stick to federal agencies. Explore opportunities at the state and local levels, maybe even the private sector. The skills you gain in the 8A program, they can be used anywhere. And having a more diverse client portfolio makes you more resilient when the market changes.
So it's about building a business that's defined by its capabilities.
Yeah.
And its reputation, its ability to serve different clients and markets, not just its 8A status.
Exactly. Now, another crucial part of preparing for graduation is those relationships we talked about earlier. Those connections with prime contractors, government agencies, even other 8A firms. They become even more valuable when you transition out of the program. They can give you insights into market trends, new opportunities, best practices for competing. And remember, relationships are a two-way street. Be a good partner, offer your expertise, build a reputation for being reliable, and delivering quality work.
So nurture those relationships throughout your 8A journey, knowing they'll be important for your long-term success. Now, we've talked a lot about planning ahead, but what about businesses that are already in the later stages of the program? Maybe they feel behind on this preparation. What resources are out there to help them catch up and make a smooth transition?
Well, the SBA Mentor-Protege Program, the one we talked about before, that can be a game changer for businesses in that spot. It gives a structured way for experienced businesses to mentor and guide those getting ready to graduate. Think of it as a fast track to build those skills and connections. The mentor firm, usually a successful graduate of 8A themselves, they share their knowledge, their experience, sometimes even resources, all to help the protege firm navigate the challenges of the open market.
So like having an experienced guide through unfamiliar territory. And the SBA actually encourages this kind of mentorship, right? They have programs and incentives to help these relationships happen.
Absolutely. The SBA, they get how valuable mentorship is in helping 8A firms succeed, both in the program and after. They offer guidance on finding the right mentor, setting up a mentorship agreement, making the whole process work smoothly. They even give financial incentives to mentor firms to get them involved. Really shows how important this knowledge sharing and support is.
That's great. So even if you're further along in the program, there's still time to get the guidance you need for a smooth transition. But I got to ask, what if a business, even after all their efforts, just doesn't feel ready to graduate after 9 years? Is there any flexibility in the program, or is it a strict deadline?
Well, that 9-year time frame is usually set. But there are some exceptions. Like in extreme cases, if there's a major economic hardship or a natural disaster, firms can ask for an extension on their 8A certification. But those extensions are hard to get. Businesses shouldn't count on them as a backup plan. The focus should always be on making the most of those 9 years and building a business that can stand on its own.
So use those 9 years as a launch pad, not a safety net. Speaking of safety nets, we've talked about transitioning out. But are there any risks to graduating? Any downsides to leaving the, relative comfort of the 8A program?
Well, the most obvious risk is more competition. Once you're out of the program, you're up against everyone, including those big established companies, the ones with more resources and experience. But you've also spent 9 years building your capabilities. You've honed your skills. You've got a track record of success. You're not starting from zero. You're entering the open market as a more mature, experienced, and competitive business.
It's like graduating from a training program, right? You've learned the ropes, you're confident, and now it's time to test your skills out in the real world. There might be some challenges at first, but there's also a much bigger potential for reward.
Exactly. And those relationships you've built during your time in 8A, they'll still be valuable. Those prime contractor contacts, connections in government agencies, even your fellow 8A graduates, they're all part of your support system as you move into the open market.
Like having a cheering section on the sidelines.
I like that analogy. And don't forget about the SBA. Even after you graduate, you can still access a lot of their resources and support programs, things like counseling, training, even financing options.
So the support doesn't just vanish. It changes to fit your needs as you move through different stages of your business. But graduating from 8A, it can feel like a big mental shift for business owners, right? You're not that small, disadvantaged business anymore. You're in the big leagues now. So how can businesses adjust their thinking to embrace this new chapter and compete confidently in the open market?
That's a really important question. It's natural to feel uncertain, maybe even a little scared, when you're leaving a program that gave you so much support and structure. But you got to remember, graduation is a sign of success. You've achieved something big. You've built a business that can stand on its own. Now it's time to embrace that new identity, to own your accomplishments and compete confidently based on what you can do.
It's about shifting from a mindset of need to a mindset of achievement.
Exactly. You're not the underdog anymore. You're a proven player, ready to compete on a level playing field. And don't underestimate the power of that mental shift. It can change everything, from how you market your business to the kinds of opportunities you go after.
So it's about projecting confidence, showing everyone that you're not just an AV firm, you're a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. And that confidence will attract the right clients, the right partners, the right opportunities.
Now, I'm sure some people out there might say that the 8A program gives businesses an unfair advantage. How would you address that?
That's a fair point. And it's true, the program does give certain advantages, like access to set-aside contracts and sole source awards. But it's important to understand why the program exists. The 8A program is there to address historical disadvantages, the ones faced by minority-owned and socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. It's about leveling the playing field, not tilting it in their favor. And remember, the program is temporary. It's a 9-year bridge to help these businesses become competitive in the open market, not a permanent crutch.
It's like giving someone a head start in a race to make up for obstacles they've had to overcome. Not about guaranteeing they'll win, but about giving them a fair chance to compete.
Exactly. And the results speak for themselves. The 8A program has helped tons of businesses achieve success, not just within the program, but in the wider market, too.
It really shows the power of opportunity and the resilience of entrepreneurs. When they get the right support, they can do amazing things.
Absolutely. And it's about recognizing that a more diverse and inclusive business landscape, it benefits everyone, not just the businesses in the program.
Great point to emphasize. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to go back to sole source awards. We mentioned them before, but I think it's worth another look, especially when it comes to planning for graduation. So how can businesses use this unique advantage to make their transition out of the 8A program smoother?
Sole source awards can definitely be a valuable tool for 8A firms, especially as they're getting ready to graduate. Remember, these awards let you win contracts without competition. It gives you a guaranteed revenue stream and a chance to build your portfolio and your reputation. Now, as we talked about before, a lot of contracting officers aren't totally familiar with this process, so you have to be proactive. Educate them about the regulations, show them what you can do, and demonstrate how a sole source award can benefit both your business and their agency.
It's about advocating for yourself and your business, showing your value and making sure that decision makers understand the benefits of working with you.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to think creatively. Look for ways to use your unique expertise or your niche capabilities to get those sole source awards. Remember, you're not just trying to win a contract, you're trying to build a lasting relationship with that government agency.
Finding that win-win, right?
Right. And if you can snag a sole source award in those later stages of your 8A program, or even just after you graduate, it can give you a cushion while you're making that transition to the open market.
Like a safety net while you're learning to fly. You mentioned earlier that Proposal Helper has a good track record with helping businesses get sole source awards. Can you tell our listener a bit more about how they do that?
Sure, Proposal Helper, they really understand the rules around sole source awards, and they have a proven process for finding opportunities and putting together strong justifications. They work closely with their clients to understand what makes them unique, and they tailor their approach to each specific situation. Plus, they have a great network of contacts within government agencies, which can be a huge help when you're navigating the process and advocating for your business.
Like having a seasoned guide to help you through all the twists and turns. And they've been pretty successful, haven't they?
They have. They've helped a bunch of businesses secure millions of dollars in sole source awards, which has given them a big leg up as they transition out of 8A.
So for our listener who's thinking about exploring this, connecting with a firm like Proposal Helper could be a smart move. Now, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I want to shift gears a bit. We've been talking about the tactical stuff, graduating from the 8A program. But what about the bigger picture? What are some of the benefits that go beyond just winning contracts? How does this experience shape businesses and their leaders in the long run? But before we get into that, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've covered how to graduate from the 8A program, but I'm curious about the bigger picture. What are some of those benefits that you can't really measure? The ones that go beyond just winning contracts? Like, how does this whole experience shape businesses and the people who run them over time?
That's a great question. You're right. The impact of the 8A program goes way beyond just the financial side of things. It really shapes businesses and their leaders, in deep ways. One of the biggest things I see is resilience. Going through the complexities of government contracting, especially as a small disadvantaged business, it forces you to be resourceful, adaptable, and persistent. You learn to overcome those challenges, change direction when you need to, and keep going even when you hit setbacks. Those are valuable skills, not just for business, but for life in general.
It's like a crash course in problem solving, right? You come out tougher, more confident, and ready to handle anything.
Exactly. And this resilience often leads to more confidence, too. You've made it through the 8A program, you've transitioned into the open market. Business owners, they develop this strong belief in themselves. They know they can compete and succeed based on their own merit. And this confidence, it shows. It inspires their teams, attracts investors, opens up new opportunities.
Like a badge of honor,
Yeah.
Proof that you can handle the tough stuff and come out on top.
Right. And this whole journey, it often encourages innovation, too. The 8A program pushes businesses to think differently, to find creative solutions to tough problems, to always be improving. This focus on innovation, it becomes part of the company's DNA. It leads to new products, new services, new ways of doing business. It makes you stand out from the crowd, helps you attract new customers.
So it's not just about following the rules. It's about finding better, smarter, more innovative ways to deliver, right?
Absolutely. And we can't forget about the impact on leadership skills. Running an 8A firm, especially going through that graduation process, it takes strong leadership. You have to be able to set a vision, get your team on board, manage those complex projects, make tough calls under pressure. All of that hones your leadership abilities, prepares you to take your company even further.
Like a leadership boot camp, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the benefits, they don't stop with just the leader at the top. Often, this focus on leadership development, it spreads throughout the whole organization. You build a culture where people feel empowered, they're encouraged to take charge, improve their skills, and contribute to the company's success.
So it's not just about one strong leader, right? It's about building a whole pipeline of leaders.
Right. It's about creating a culture of leadership at every level. And that leads to more engaged employees, people sticking around longer, a more dynamic and innovative workplace.
It's like a ripple effect. The good stuff from the 8A program spreads outwards. It impacts the business and the people in it.
Exactly. And let's not forget the broader social impact of the 8A program. By supporting these businesses, the program helps create jobs, generate wealth, and revitalize communities. It promotes economic empowerment and creates more equal opportunities. Those are wins for everyone, not just the businesses in the program.
It shows that success in business isn't just about the bottom line. It's about making a positive impact on the world around you.
Absolutely. And the 8A program helps businesses achieve both financial success and social good.
Now, before we wrap up completely, if our listener is thinking about applying for the 8A program, what would you tell them? What are some important things to think about before jumping in?
Great question. I'd say first and foremost, do your homework. Make sure you really understand the program requirements, the benefits, and what you're committing to. The 8A program, it's not a magic bullet. It takes hard work, dedication, and a long-term plan.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Exactly. And don't underestimate how important it is to find guidance and support. There are tons of resources out there, from the SBA to organizations like Proposal Helper. They can help you navigate the process, come up with a strategy, and connect with the right people. Remember, you don't have to do this all on your own.
It's about building a team of advisors, right? People who can guide you along the way.
Right. And lastly, I'd say believe in yourself and your vision. The 8A program is designed to help you succeed. But in the end, it's your passion, your drive, and your commitment that will determine your results. So if you're ready to take on the challenge, to learn and grow, and to build a business that makes a real difference, then the 8A program might be the perfect launchpad for you.
That's great advice. So to our listener out there, if you're ready to take that leap, explore the resources we talked about, connect with experts like the folks at Proposal Helper, and most importantly, believe in yourself. You can achieve amazing things. The 8A program is a powerful tool, and with the right mindset and support, you can build a business that thrives, not just in the program, but in the open market too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of federal contracting and the 8A program. We'll see you next time.